What's going on, guys? This is AndrewChicken and welcome back to another video. In this one I'll be going over my picks for the top 5 strongest tanks in Paladins. These frontline champions are among the strongest champions in the game, able to dominate the battlefield and pose a huge threat to any enemy who dares to oppose them. The tanks on this list were chosen for a number of factors, including how good they are at defending an objective, how well they can push back enemy forces and take charge of the objective, and how strong they are at killing enemies. But with that out of the way, let's get straight into the video. Number 5. Ashe. In the number 5 spot we have one of the strongest tanks when it comes to charging forward and making room for her team, Ashe. Ashe is an excellent tank for pushing into enemies and forcing them to retreat, with her entire kit based around charging into a battle, blasting her enemies away, and then continuing to chase after them and pound them into dust. Ashe is easily one of the most annoying tanks to fight, since she's loaded with tons of crowd control abilities to keep enemies from even reaching the objective, and when she deploys her shield it constantly drives forward, enabling her to keep advancing and pushing the enemy back. Her ultimate is also incredibly strong, allowing her to quickly close the distance between herself and her enemies and secure the area around her banner for a whole 8 seconds. Ashe is incredibly powerful when it comes to breaching an area and holding it for her team, but she does have her weaknesses that keep her from placing higher on this list. Resilience can easily counter most of her kit, since 3 of her abilities, including her ultimate, provide some sort of crowd control effect. Ashe's weapon is also very weak compared to other tanks, dealing only 400 damage per shot, while champions with similar fire rates such as Makua, Barrack, and Terminus deal much more damage in about the same amount of time. This means that when trading shots with most other tanks, Ashe is put at a huge disadvantage without help from her team. Her weapon also has a very limited range without slugshot, which sacrifices her AoE capabilities to make her weapon effective at medium range. This makes her completely helpless against other tanks who can outrange her, such as Ruckus or Atlas. Despite these setbacks, Ashe is still an extremely strong tank when it comes to storming onto the objective and taking it from her enemies, which earns her the number 5 spot on this list. Number 4. Inara. Inara takes the number 4 spot on this list because she is the absolute toughest target in the realm to shoot down. Smothering herself in layers of damage reduction, Inara can make herself as impregnable as her wall, able to take more than double the amount of incoming fire than other tanks with her Mother's Grace talent. Inara is exceptional when it comes to holding her own on the objective, since her kit is entirely based around staying in one place and not allowing anything to come near her. Impasse, Warder's Field, and her ultimate are all abilities designed to deny anyone from reaching the objective, making Inara one of the strongest defensive tanks in the realm. Inara can also deal gobs of damage to anyone near her, since her Stone Spear becomes one of the strongest frontline weapons with just a little bit of practice. As with any tank though, Inara has her weaknesses. Since Inara is one of the only tanks with no movement ability, it's extremely difficult for her to engage with a target or retreat when she gets low. Inara is one of the worst tanks for breaching the objective when enemies are already there, which is something that even Barrack can do more effectively. Although she does have a card she can use which propels her high into the sky when she uses her wall, she can't use this ability in closed off rooms like the ones in Bright Marsh or Stone Keep, and it defeats the purpose of her using the wall to zone off enemies. However, once Inara does reach the objective, it is extremely difficult to force her off because of her powerful defensive abilities. Another issue Inara's lack of a movement ability creates is that she is extremely vulnerable to crowd control abilities. She has absolutely no way of returning to the objective if she gets knocked back except for walking, and she is completely doomed if an enemy knocks her off a ledge. This is mitigated greatly by her Mother's Grace talent though, which in some ways makes her a better tank at enduring crowd control abilities than every other tank in the game. Inara has some of the best defensive abilities in the game and is the hardest tank to burst down, which makes her the 4th best frontline champion in Paladins. Number 3. Khan. Shouting his way into number 3 is the fearless bodyguard of House Ico, Khan. For the longest time, Khan could have been considered the best tank in the realm because of how strong his firing line talent was, which granted himself and his allies total CC immunity and increased damage for 4 seconds after he used Battle Shout. Despite this being removed from the game, Khan is still one of the strongest champions in Paladins, with a devastating combination of dangerous card control abilities and powerful damage potential. Khan has one of the deadliest weapons in the frontline class, dealing nearly 1000 damage per second by default and almost 1500 damage per second with Storm of Bullets. In conjunction with Commander's Grab, Khan can easily throw an enemy champion out of position and tear them to pieces, an ability only Makua does better at. Despite being a heavily offensive tank, Khan is great at sustaining himself too, since his Bulwark and Battle Shout allow him to sustain gobs of incoming fire and even support his allies. Khan's only weakness is his ability to defend his other teammates. Khan has the smallest non-personal shield in the game, making it very difficult to defend anyone besides himself. Makua, Fernando, Barrack, and Terminus are all much better than Khan when it comes to defending other teammates and the objective, which makes Khan much worse than them in that regard. However, by being extremely aggressive, Khan can absolutely ruin any enemy before they even have a chance to use those defensive abilities, earning him the number 3 spot on this list. Number 2. Terminus. Terminus takes the number 2 spot on this list with his terrifying battle axe and unstoppable aggression that makes him the scariest tank to face at close range. Terminus is the ultimate aggressive tank, able to chase down targets and slash them to bits with an axe that's bigger than most champions. It's easy to see how Terminus has the highest win rate out of all the tanks, since he excels at both destroying enemy champions and defending his allies with the most versatile shield in the game. Terminus can deal tons of damage to enemies near him, and despite having a melee-only primary fire, he can be a huge threat at range too, since shooting his power siphon gives him up to 4 Calamity Blast charges which he can quickly shoot right back and nearly obliterate any champion. His power siphon is incredibly strong too, since it's the only shield that can turn to face any direction and is completely indestructible. Terminus' movement ability also works really well with his kit, since it helps him to close the distance with an enemy by slowing them when it hits, so he can easily walk up to them and finish them off with a devastating blow. Terminus does have a few issues that prevent him from reaching the number 1 spot. Despite his ultimate being extremely useful for zoning enemies off the objective, it is really difficult to kill anyone with it since it can easily be evaded with a movement ability or blocked with a shield or wall. Androxus also counters it extremely well with his reversal, since he can block the damage and send all of it back at Terminus, which can be lethal if Androxus uses Godslayer. Despite this issue and the numerous bugs which Evil Mojo still has yet to fix, Terminus remains one of the strongest tanks in Paladins, and deserves the number 2 spot on this list. Now, there is one champion I believe deserves an honorable mention, and that is Torvald. Torvald is the absolute strongest frontline when it comes to supporting his teammates, since a good Torvald can make the damage champions on his team an absolute nightmare to face. The shielding and damage buffs he provides makes him a popular ban in ranked. However, the reason Torvald doesn't make it onto this list is because he fails to provide much else for his team other than his amazing shields. He has no movement ability, which gives him similar problems to Inara, except he has no reliable way to counter crowd control abilities. While he doesn't necessarily lack in damage and crowd control himself, he is one of the squishiest tanks, with only 3,300 health underneath his personal shield. For these reasons, I feel that Torvald deserved an honorable mention, but wasn't quite tough enough to make it onto the actual list. Number 1. Makua. And in the number 1 spot we have Makua, the king of all tanks and an almost unstoppable force on the battlefield. Makua easily has the best kit out of all the frontliners, with the incredible combination of a huge dome shield, a powerful cannon that deals 650 damage a shot, and a simple yet effective shell spin that is perfect for engaging or retreating from a target. He also has his legendary hook, which is perfect for displacing enemies and sending them to their certain doom. Other tanks simply can't challenge Makua when he uses his powerful ultimate ability that has few counters, and is one of the best abilities in the game for securing an objective and forcing the enemies to retreat. Countering a good Makua is almost impossible for other tanks to do alone, since Makua is extremely strong in all aspects. He's great for pushing into enemies and gaining ground for his team, he's good at defending his teammates with his massive shell shield, and he is amazing when it comes to killing any champion, big or small. Makua simply cannot be challenged by other tanks, which earns him the number 1 spot on this list. So anyways, that's the end of this video. Do you guys agree with my list? Let me know in the comments section down below. Also, make sure to like this video and subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and join my Discord server using the link in the description to pick up tips, leave suggestions, and become a part of our active community. Links to my Twitch and Twitter are also in the description if you guys want to follow me there as well. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.